Wild field mustard is one of my most favorite weeds to eat because it has such a long season for some part to be delicious. In this video, I want to focus on wild field mustard in the wintertime. Maybe wild field mustard grows around you in the winter. I've seen wild field mustard handle night temperatures that are 20 degrees, 19 degrees, and even 18 degrees Fahrenheit, as long as the daytime temperatures are above freezing. And I've seen wild field mustard handle cold snaps where even the daytime temperatures stay below freezing for a few days, and the plants come right back into good condition when it finally warms up even just a little bit above freezing. That's why one of my personal wild food traditions is to have wild field mustard and black-eyed peas on New Year's Day. Hey, welcome to Haphazard Homestead. I'm Holly Chris. I'm glad you're here. So let's first take a look at the different stages of growth and different conditions of wild field mustard that you may be able to find in the winter. If the weather's been mild since the wild field mustard seeds sprouted in the autumn, there can be tender plants out there in the winter. It can even be flowering too. That wild field mustard is great for a salad. Maybe you've seen me use the young and tender wild field mustard in winter salads. But there can also be wild field mustard that looks old and ragged and rough, wild field mustard that looks like it's seen a tough life, and that's because it has. It's experienced repeated cold weather over a few months, but don't be fooled into thinking that that wild field mustard is no good for eating. It's perfect for the longer, slow cooking in soup or with black-eyed peas for New Year's Day. When you're out looking for wild field mustard, if you find it in a dense patch, wild field mustard plants won't be as big as when they have more room to grow. You can see that wild field mustard leaves come out as a central group from the root. The leaves can get rough looking with little bumps in every section of the leaf. If you keep track of the wild field mustard leaves that I'll show you here, you'll see that the size of the leaf doesn't matter when it comes to those little bumps. On some leaves, you may see signs that slugs have been eating on them too, or that wild field mustard leaves can look coarse and maybe a little worn out. But they are still nice and tasty. They don't get hot, they don't get bitter, and they don't even get tough when they're cooked right. This whole plant, that whole thing is good. That whole thing is good. And even the root is good. That's right. Wild field mustard is the wild plant that people long ago bred into turnips and Napa cabbage and rapini. They all came from selective breeding from the wild field mustard. So wild field mustard roots won't smell like a mustard or a radish. They're going to smell like a store-bought turnip. Rub that off. It won't smell like mustard. It won't smell like a radish. It will smell exactly like a store-bought turnip. We can even use it like a store-bought turnip in the wintertime. All of this is going to be good. I'm looking at for the black-eyed peas, it's these bigger leaves, the coarser leaves, because we're going to cook them down. Now you may find wild field mustard in a dense patch, or you may find them all alone out in mowed grass. These small mowed plants will look the same with those little bumps on their leaves. It's exactly the same. This is not the spring growth. This is the fall and winter growth. These have been here for a while, but they're still good to eat. They're better for cooking than they are for a salad because they've been out here a while, but they're still good. But you can see it's growing from a central rosette right there. We'll leave him to get bigger. If you can smell a turnip, pull the root, it smells like a turnip. Here's a tip. If you find wild field mustard growing by itself in a mowed area, take a look around where the grass is a little more tall. You may find wild field mustard there too, and it's going to be bigger. When I make wild field mustard with black-eyed peas, I am specifically looking for the big, coarse leaves. Some years the leaves are big, some years the leaves are small. It all depends on what's been going on. But wild field mustard is always there. Boom. This year we got a big batch. That's kind of middle-sized leaves right there. It changes from year to year. In my experience, wild field mustard leaves get the biggest when the weather leading into the winter's been cloudy and wet without a lot of hard freezing, but it's still been cool. Then the plants put their energy into the leaves instead of starting to flower. If I could find wild field mustard plants like this every year, that would be great. These are perfect for cooking. Those leaves were big. Every one was about a foot long just for the leaf part. Once you bring your wild field mustard into the kitchen, you'll notice there can be a lot of grit and dirt on the leaves, especially if there's been a lot of winter rain. You can see that it's dirty. That's what happens when you get open soil and it's rainy out. This is good even with these big old leaves. It works fine with the big leaves. These leaves are big. It's going to be just fine to use these. So it's really important to clean the wild field mustard leaves. I just want to show you one of the secrets to really cleaning this up is just to let it soak. Don't try to wash every one of them off. Just let it soak in that water and see how the dirt will come off. It'll all soak off. See how that water's dark? It's all settling to the bottom of the pan. Now don't just dump the whole pan of leaves into the sink. All that grit settled at the bottom of the pan will get right back on the leaves. Instead, lift those field mustard leaves out of the water and then rinse them off once. Then you can dump all that muddy water outside, not down your sink. While the wild field mustard leaves are soaking, that's a good time to get everything else ready. I start with sautéing onions in olive oil in a big deep dish skillet. For this batch, I chopped some peppers that I got from my garden in October that are still good even on New Year's Day. Sometimes I'll add smoked jalapeno peppers, and that is really good. Adding tomatoes or a ham hock or a ham bone is a good option at this stage too. If you cook with wild field mustard or use other greens with black-eyed peas, let me and everybody else know what you do down in the comments below. I would really like to know. You can do the black-eyed peas however you like. You can cook them in a pressure cooker or just open a can of black-eyed peas. I covered these dried black-eyed peas with water and soaked them overnight, and then rinsed them off before I added them with some more water to the onions in my skillet. I stir all this up, put a lid on it, and then get back to the wild field mustard leaves. I think the easiest way to deal with big wild field mustard leaves is to stack the leaves in a pile and then chop them all at once. I look the leaves over when I stack them up. If the stem is too big, I just strip it out. It does pay to look it over, that one. You can just tear off that piece. That's good. Then I roll the stack up, cut the leaves, push all that off, and then do another stack. It goes pretty quick. That stack is one of the plastic bags worth that you saw earlier in the video. So that's a lot of greens. When the black-eyed peas are soft enough to eat, that's the time to add all the wild field mustard. It may look like all those leaves won't fit in the skillet, but don't worry. I just add some more water, put the lid on, and come back in a bit. This is about 10 or 15 minutes later. You can see there's plenty of room for all that wild field mustard now. But how will we know when the field mustard is cooked enough? I'm just going to let that cook a little more. What I'm looking for is a change in the color of the leaves. See how the mustard has changed color now after about 20 more minutes? That looks pretty good, doesn't it? I'm going to dish this up on some baked polenta, and then we'll get a live taste review. Oh yeah, there we go. That's going to be so good. You can add a little salt and pepper to that if you want, but I don't think I need it. Oh yeah. That is so good. Oh, that's so good. That was so delicious. I hope you get a chance to have some wild field mustard and black-eyed peas yourself sometime, and not just on New Year's Day. I hope things are going well at your place. Thanks for watching. Bye. Yeah, that's so good.